Before we get started on today's topic, which is theories of homeopathy, which is the basis of how I treat, I always think that when patients know what we're doing, it just allows for more compliance, and you can understand the duration of treatment, the length of treatment, what your body's actually going through. I know for me, when I know what I'm going through, I can endure it because healing is not often easy. So when I know what I'm going through, it just helps. So that's what I wanted to. It may not seem like a fun topic, but it's actually, I find it very interesting. So anything about the deep theories, and there's so much to it. So Christy's watching. Welcome, Christy. Yeah, so I thought I'd kind of explain many of the master classes I've gone through, deeper philosophies, and I've had patients say, you know, I so hated working with you for so long because I thought you were just like dragging things out, and just by listening to the master class, they understood the length that it takes to heal, and so they really understood it. So it was really cool to hear that too. And trust me, I am not drawing anything out. It is how the body heals. I really honor the space that it takes for the nervous system to unfold and the body to detoxify itself. And yes, some people is far quicker than others, and some people it's a bit of a journey. Like for myself, it's been quite the journey. So I really have no expectation, and I know for damn sure it's not like a magic bullet cure, a one-stop shop, which is often what we're programmed to believe in Western medicine. You know, take the one magic bullet pill and we'll have wellness. It's not really the case. You can take a pill, and sometimes they're necessary. As you know, I'm not anti-medication, but just know the truth. Be real with the truth that medication is not wellness producing, it is symptom managing. So you're managing symptoms, not producing wellness. It's a totally different ball game. Does that make sense? There's many master classes I did that kind of go over that, and now I want to dive deeper in a little bit of the theories of homeopathy, which is very cool for me, and I have like all these books, so I hope it's not going to be too scattered. But I wanted to go over 3 philosophies of healing homeopathically, and sometimes you'll probably be using them in your day-to-day life and you don't even know that you are using them. One key one for sure, I know everyone must know, and I'll explain it, but you don't realize that it's a homeopathic principle. So I'm going to go over 3 of them. Like cures like. So yeah, I'll explain that. Herring's law is number 2, and number 3 is the laws of detoxification. So that's really what we're going to go over today, and it's a little kind of a deeper dive into the philosophy of healing, what you're looking for, and it's so intricate. So when people are speaking, often I try to make the visit like a little bit lively, but I'm like listening deeply for like, how is this body reacting? How is the person's reactions occurring? I'm looking at the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual bodies. How are they reacting? How is it reacting last year this time of year? You know, for example, if it's hay fever time, how was the reactions last year? How is the reactions to a coworker that was maybe not such a great relationship? How are all those reactions? Was it volatile and fiery before, and now this year the reaction is dampened and it feels like a neutral moot point, which is how we want it to get to. So I'm looking for everything when I'm listening. I'm listening to like the temperament. Does this person do better with cold conditions? Is this person a mucousy person? Is this person do better with warm conditions? So there's a lot involved in healing. How does this person detoxify? There's 4 different ways of detoxifying, and how does this particular person detoxify? Because if we don't know that, they will aggravate completely when they start the treatment. So knowing all that and trying to hear all that, the remedy part is easy. It's like the philosophy is like all of this, and then I'll put it at the top, giving the remedies is like this, but you have to know what you're treating. So all that stuff is like under the iceberg, a little bit above the iceberg, above the water. And then the remedy choice is easy. The treatment choice is easy, but you have to know exactly why and how the body is presenting, how that particular person heals, intergenerational, ethnic, origins, all of that play into how does the body heal. So when I'm chatting with somebody, I'm looking at all this, and then when you give the remedies, it is based on all of this content. So most people don't look at any of this and they make the supplement choice like the everything. So for example, one of the master classes I did is about the magic bullet cure, and say a person has a sleep issue. Well, to me, it's just a symptom, but why is the symptom there? So I'm looking at that whole bulk underneath, and then when I figure that out, the remedy is easy. So I know where they're coming from, and then the remedy is easy. Whereas in the Western medicine sense, we're taught to just look at the symptom and then find something that fixes that symptom. So if you go to a health food store, you're under the sleep aisle. Of course, melatonin is linked to sleep, so that must be your issue. There's so much underlying that disrupts sleep, and if you don't know what the underlying is, the remedy choice will always be a guess. It will always be a stab in the dark. And sometimes, yes, you might get it right, and other times it's just frustrating because melatonin didn't work for you. Well, there's no understanding of the what's under the water, and that is all of it. It is like 99% of it. And then the treatment itself, or the remedy choice, or whatever it is, that's just the minute part. So the real healing is in the detail of the origin of the symptom, origin of the illness. Does that make sense, everyone? If you can throw up a thumbs up if that makes sense to everyone. I feel really dehydrated today and puffy. I had a little bit of wine last night, not much, like a glass or two, and I just feel really like puffy. I feel like my face is puffy. But does that make sense, everyone? About the difference. You could just throw up stars, thumbs up, hearts, whatever, if that makes sense. So it's all about what is going on. So that, when you know that, it's a game changer, and that's why, yeah, so there's some thumbs up. Okay, so that's why, the philosophy is everything, and I really feel like the more we understand it, the easier it is to go through the process. So I wanted to talk about how all of us are frequency. We are all frequency beings. So they say that even like 90% of our communication is nonverbal. You can sense a person. Do you gravitate towards them without even talking to them? Do you feel repelled from them? What is going on there? That's usually their energetic frequency. I had one of my colleagues, she used to take her little baby to business meetings when she was looking for a business coach, because I think she was maybe like a toddler at the time, but her toddler would like scream when it was someone she didn't like, and then when it was a good one, she was pretty content just playing. So kids are just pure frequency, and that's how they survive in the world, is their energetic communication. And so the ones that she told me that she screamed at, later it came to light that was not a great coach as a person, as a coach themselves. So like, babies are really good. You can't and should not force them to go to somebody that they're no means no, they're good. And we have that still, but we lose it a little bit along the way. And the goal of healing is to tap into our frequency again. So our inner knowing, our frequency. Sometimes when you hear somebody say like, oh, so-and-so has a healing energy, or somebody has like kind of a harsh energy, and it kind of hits me in my heart when I talk to them, or I feel really like on guard when I talk to them. It's just a feeling. So it's all frequency. Nature is all frequency. So when we don't feel great, we can switch our frequency quickly by going into nature, and then we're in resonance with nature, which is more feminine energy, and we can switch that, get out of our minds, pop into our heart a little bit, and just change that frequency very quickly. By the water is very healing. So when people go by the water, just movement can change your frequency. Something's like bubbling up and you can change your frequency quite easily. So we're all frequency beings. And when we have an illness, so when somebody comes in with a diagnosis, let's use my case, for example, asthma, eczema, those are pathologies. So they're defined illnesses, diseases, whatever you call it, autoimmune. There's a pathology, and that is the Western sense, is always treat the pathology, which is the end state. So we're looking at the pathology. However, to get to the pathology, that end state, there is a series of disruptions of the frequency that has probably happened along your life many times, many years, many different instances, and maybe even, not maybe, but for sure, it could have been in the womb with the mother, and it could be intergenerational, passed down frequencies. So there are frequency imbalances that we carry that may not be even our own. There are frequency imbalances that are just passed down. And then we have our own frequency imbalances, and these various frequency imbalances will lead to that end state disease or pathology. So in the way I practice, it's more so looking at the physiology, which is like, what is the things that happen throughout life that resulted in those frequency changes? Where did the chemical reactions in the body go off? Was it the gut? Was it the mental, emotional? Was there stress? Was there trauma? Was there intergenerational trauma? All that stuff. So I'm looking at what led up to the end state, the asthma, the eczema, whereas Western medicine, we're just looking at the end state and got to treat that. So again, it's that whole big under the water, once again, looking at all that to get to that end state. And that is different frequency imbalances. So if you notice at Brio, there's a lot of frequency treatments. So the under remedies are all energetic frequencies. Each number has a different frequency, and that frequency matches various organ systems. So as I do the intake, I can figure out for that month what organ system imbalance is the most prominent at the time, and then we treat that and kind of peel back that layer. And it's not like one-time remedy, it's treated, because we hold a lot in our systems, mentally, emotionally, physically, and so toxin wise, and so it's trying to detox all of that, and it just takes time. So each of the 3 sets of numbers always are related to a frequency. Acupuncture is all frequency medication, frequency modality. So you could know that whole underlying case if you've ever sat with Dr. Jeff or Dr. Karen. They do acupuncture, and their case history is quite detailed as well, but they're treating the underlying, what they figure out from their detailed history with acupuncture. And the reason they get such good results is because of their detailed knowing, and then the points chosen will be very specific. You can't do cookie cutter points. Say someone comes in with asthma or eczema, you can't just do asthma points. They're looking at, trauma, intergenerational stuff, grief stuff, all of that. All of what I'm looking at, they're doing too. Linda, our RMT, she does visceral massage, and it's really using the outer fascia of she doesn't do visceral, sorry, she does fascia release, which is totally different study. And so there's like an outer nervous system really of its own around the muscles, and when those get off balance, it's kind of like, those Venetian blinds, like you have the blind set up and then you'd pull one side and it was all up and it was totally tilted, and unless you pulled it properly, it wouldn't all the way pull up. Well, our bodies can do that. Like your whole one neck could all pull up and it throws out the entire one side of your body, and then she finds the energetic points of the fascia that need to be released, and say it starts like the pains here, but it could be at your sacrum, and once she releases that, then that Venetian blind type thing just drops, and then the body's back into balance. So that's a frequency as well, because a lot of times our thoughts, stressors, physical, imbalances in life, just carrying things or over repetitive use, results in the frequency shift for the fascia to be tightened at certain points. And Dario, with his photobiomodulation, all of the red waves of the laser is a different frequency. So he's using different frequencies to treat inflammation. And so it's almost like when the person, say, comes in with an inflamed knee, he's hitting the knee with a certain inflammation, a certain frequency, to just almost speed up that inflammation, and then it can heal. Because the body is using inflammation as healing, and it's using it as a protective mechanism. And often we want to stop that inflammation. There's a balance, you want to stop the inflammation, but you also want it to do its job because it's there for a reason, and then it starts to heal. So Dario is doing that as well. Bowen Therapy, which is the body work I do, is all frequency. So you're doing certain energetic points and you release, and it's just using my fingers, whereas with acupuncture you would use needles, using my fingers on certain set points in the body. And as you release, it's like this frequency is released, and the body knows exactly what to do with that frequency. And you can see the spine like crack, crack, crack on its own during the week. The neck will crack, the jaw will crack. But what we're doing is just releasing the nervous system so the body can do it itself. And it's not like being forced upon to do it. Oftentimes when there is an imbalance and the hips are out of balance, it could be because the jaw is out of balance. And so Bowen Therapy also doesn't assume where we know where the imbalance is coming from. It just treats the whole body, and that the frequency rebalancing will go to wherever it needs to go to, and the body's own energy will realign the spine, the hips, the jaw. So it's pretty fascinating. So our whole clinic ended up being a treatment of frequency, and that means the case taking is the utmost importance, because you have to know where to treat what is out of balance. And I mean, we do have supplements in our office, but if you notice, most of the remedies and medications are Chinese medicine, which is frequency, and under remedies. And that's the bulk of our treatment, because we are trying to treat the imbalance in the frequency. So as we're healing, all healing requires a reaction. All organisms have the capacity to react. So as you're healing, you want a reaction. And this is from Hahnemann. He is like the forefather of homeopathy, and this was stated in 1791. So when we treat, especially with under remedies, when a person comes in, especially kids, because kids don't really have as much to kind of sift through as we do, or they don't have as much resistance to the healing as we do. And so when kids come in, often the mom will report back that as soon as they started the remedies, they got a fever, or they got flu-like symptoms, or they got sick. And the mom is kind of worried and often trusting, because it's usually a personal referral that they heard about me. Sometimes when they've never heard about me, it can be a bit scary, and we have to talk them through it. But I'm doing cartwheels and I'm thinking this is amazing, because in order to start to shift that frequency, in order to heal, the body must react. So a fever reaction is great. Sometimes for the kids it could be diarrhea, sometimes it could be just cold, cough, flu. That's the body's attempt of detoxification. So we want to trigger a reaction. That means the body's vital force is strong, and it's starting to prompt itself to heal. And so adults, we want this too. And people always ask when they take the remedies, will there be a side effect? And I'm like, nope, never ever a side effect. But there will be an actual effect. So say for, again, in my case, I'm trying to treat the lungs or whatever process resulted in lung asthma. There won't be a side effect of the remedies, but there will actually be an effect. So it's desired. So say During my healing, I had to be very careful because sometimes I would cough more and there'd be a lot more mucus production as the lungs were trying to detoxify themselves. So that is part of the clearing out and the healing, and you've triggered a response, which we want. So all healing must require a triggered response. That is a really, really good sign. Sometimes it takes me, for adults, up to a year for a patient to get a fever. And that's okay. But when they do get the fever, also they're part of like the thought of, oh, I've been doing all this work with you, and how did I get so sick? And I'm like, I've been waiting for this fever for a year. So this is a great, great sign, because only a strong vitality will have a fever. So again, that's kind of counterintuitive, but like Hahnemann said, all organisms have the capacity to react, and we have to trust that reaction. Over the years, there's a lot of fear-mongering with health, as you well know right now. It's nothing but fear-mongering with our health and our immune systems. But we have to trust that reaction and trust in the body's ability to heal itself. That oftentimes there will be more pain, or more, even with body work, there could be more pain, or you feel a little bit sick or unwell, and it's not massive. It's not, like put you in the hospital. It's just like you feel a little bit sick or unwell before you get better, and this is wanted. This is great. So we all have a vital force in us that is connected to consciousness. This is a little bit deeper, but it's connected to consciousness, and it knows how to heal. What we're doing is trying to get all those blocks of the vital force out of the way so the body can do its job. When we have imbalances in organs, when we have symptoms, when we have diagnosed diseases, when we have illnesses, when we have toxic accumulation, that blocks our vital force from doing what it needs to do. And when our vital force is totally blocked for many, many years, generations, what have you, we have the end stage, which is the pathology, whereas we're trying to treat the physiology, which is how did the person get so blocked. One of my mentors described it as being the sweeper of the path. So when you're trying to help a person get well, you're clearing their path, and then the vital force can do its job. So the body is really a self-healing organism, and over the years we've just lost that ability to self-heal, and we have to by force interfere quite a bit. And I'm not anti-interfering. I've been in the hospital many times, and had there not been that interference, I'm not even sure I would be here. It was that severe. I used interference or the medical treatments, but along the way I was always doing the work to sweep and clean and heal and detoxify, so my body can start that healing process. For me, my re-triggering and my reactions to healing were quite severe. I remember once I had, I guess my body was going towards treating the allergies, the hay fever. I thought hay fever was the least of my worries, but it was almost like I thought I was going to die from sneezing. It was like 24 hours or longer that I could not stop. There was not even enough tissues. My bed was filled, and it was like sneeze after sneeze after sneeze. And after that, it was a pure hell. Don't get me wrong, no medications was really helping, no pharmaceuticals, no antihistamines, nothing natural was helping, because my body was triggering a reaction, like Hahnemann said, Samuel Hahnemann. And after that, I never had allergies. So I worked on my allergies for quite some time, but after that, it was gone. And I can be in a dusty room. I can have pollen. Like this year is a high pollen year. I feel it. I can semi-feel it, but there's no allergies or seasonal hay fever like I used to have. It used to be so bad I used to have to leave school, in addition to having like all the food sensitivities, asthma, eczema, all that. I thought allergies was like the least of my worries, but thinking back on it, it was very disruptive. I couldn't function. It'd be like my eyes were just, and then that feeling in your face, and one part of my treating, it was just out, like it came out. And my naturopath, I trust him so deeply, because he's actually the one who taught me all this philosophy and brought the Undu remedies and how the philosophy of that treatment is used to North America. So I totally trusted him. And he even said, he's like, wow, he's like, thank you for trusting me, because what I had gone through just to get the allergies to go away was pure hell. Now, don't get freaked out, because most people's reactions aren't that severe. Everything from my reactions seemed to be like so severe. But could it even be mood alterations? Yes, I've had patients as they were healing, and this is tough. This is like probably the toughest, and they required pharmaceuticals to get through that reaction, but the mood was off, anxiety was off for an extended period of time. And then during that reaction time, you're still doing the healing, but you have to perhaps even use pharmaceuticals to get you through it. So by whatever means necessary. But the undercurrent is what we need to know. We need to know what is going on with the body. So with the Undu remedies, if you read about them online, it's very easy to like read them and prescribe. It's not a difficult science of learning the remedies themselves. It's not that detailed, but there's good little stock descriptions, and you could choose a few and try to treat yourself. But the problem is that the undercurrent of that, what is really resulting in the body having this expression, that is difficult to, or almost impossible to treat yourself and figure that out. So I have not treated myself even. It was all by a naturopath and other coaches and things like that, because I couldn't access that with an unbiased objective account. So that is the study, that is the art, that is the genius, is that what is going on. And then the remedies, the remedies themselves are quite easy. So that's the difference. So I'll quickly go through, we're already at half an hour, but I haven't started the laws yet. So the first law is like cures like. So when I jumped onto this topic, I was like, this one's not going to be that long. I will just do 20 minutes. But then I thought about it. I was like, nothing I ever do is 20 minutes. Even I talked about hot, cold showers for like 45, 50 minutes last time. So it's never really quick. But I'll try to get in all three laws of healing because I find them quite fascinating. The first one is very cool. So again, thinking about frequency, keep that in mind when we are all frequency beings. So like cures like. In homeopathy, one of the basic premises of teaching or healing is like cures like. So when you have a body that has a certain symptom, they are in an imbalanced state, their frequency is imbalanced at some level. To give a remedy that matches that frequency, it's like two waves. When they crash, they'll flatline. So the two waves of having symptoms, and then they flatline when they hit each other. And then the symptom goes away. So classical homeopathy, which is not what I do, it's not what I trained in. I did learn it, and it is amazing science. It really is its own science. As much as I've learned about the treatment with drainage remedies, it's not something I gravitate towards to do classical homeopathy, but it is big in Europe. It was big in like Germany, Austria, India. It's huge. So what they do is like for 2-3 hours, they will take your case. Like, do you like warm water? Do you like to drink cold water? Do you do this? Do you sleep on your left side? Is your right knee up when you're sleeping? Like such detail that they're taking, like 3 hours. So they are looking that under the water, they're looking deeply into how your body reacts and everything. So they're looking deeply into it. And then they're trying to figure out your energetic frequency, your vibration, and then they'll choose a remedy that matches. So the remedy that they choose will have an imprint of the same kind of frequency and have all the same symptoms when taken. And so you're giving the person their energetic wave imbalance, and when they hit, the symptoms will dissipate. So our world is a lot more toxic than it used to be. So back in the day, they could give one remedy and a person would be good, and they might have to redose it several times, but the symptom, you'd hit the bullseye. Now we live in a much more toxic world. There's food toxins, there's food sprays, there's so much pollution with like perhaps exhaust and cars and EMF frequencies and light, and sleep times are off and things like that, pharmaceuticals, all that we're taking, medical interventions, whatever it is. But we're far more toxic, so you can't just anymore really do that bullseye. You have to give remedies that will peel layers, peel layers, peel layers. And now classical homeopathy also takes years and years and years, because you are trying to get to the real person's genetic blueprint, and their bullseye takes time to get to. So they're taking the person's case history, trying to use a remedy that matches the frequency, and when the waves hit, they crash and flatline. Flatline meaning the symptoms neutralize. The person will cease to have the symptoms. Does that make sense to everyone? I'll give you an example. One of the most classic examples of like cures like is, and if you've ever gone to England or have family in England, this is the ultimate like cures like, and everyone does this. So think about patio season, put yourself in that state. Think about summer vacation, spring vacation, as you know, you're at universities. What do they tell you to do when you have a hangover? Wake up in the morning, you're hungover, you actually want to die, and they tell you what? Not have water, have another drink. So that in England is called the hair of the dog. I can't remember, I meant to look it up for you guys why that origin of that name came up, but it's called the hair of the dog. This person is in a frequency, they're in a hungover state, and to get themselves out of it is to put themselves in that state and have alcohol. That is homeopathy. Whether you know it or not, that is homeopathy. So like cures like. Put the person in that state and it will, wavelines will crash and neutralize that death-like symptom of a hangover. Does that make sense to everyone? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that as like cures like. That is a theory of homeopathy. So I see some thumbs up and some laughing. And yeah, so people don't realize it, but everyone tells you when you're hungover and say you're on like a stay get or something like that, the next morning you have to be functional and with the group and continue to drink because you're going on a catamaran or whatever the group activity is. You have to get your shit together, and people will tell you, have another drink. And it oftentimes will work. So many times I've been on vacations with girlfriends, and you know, something has happened and it's gone a bit hard, and the girls will have a drink, and it actually will change their entire state, and they're ready to go for round 2, round 3. I, to be honest, have not done that or noticed the effect of having a drink to cure a hangover. I've never put myself, obviously I've had a hangover in the past, you know, at university and stuff, but I've never really, I think, had a drink to overcome that. But many girlfriends that I've been on trips with have, and the hair of the dog is ultimately homeopathy. I'll give you another one. So I'm not suggesting that you drink, that's not at all the suggestion. The example is to show like cures like. That is the ultimate like cures like. A second example, and this is very much not well known at all, and most people, when you suggest it, they'll freak out, but it does work. And take this with a total grain of salt. I'm talking about minor situations. So let's say you're grabbing something out of the oven, and perhaps you're just using a cloth instead of a glove, and you burned a little bit of your finger, and the burn is minor. So it's just a little burn. It's not like 2nd degree or anything like that. You're talking about a minor. So Donna's just joining in. Welcome, Donna. I'm gonna send you a wave. So we're talking about like cures like, and homeopathy. Hold on. There we go. Homeopathy theories, Donna. So like cures like. You burn yourself a little bit with grabbing something out of the oven. It's minor, so this is minor, maybe a little bit more than minor, and it could blister up. What are we taught to do? So the finger is now hot. It's the immune system is all the immune mediated responses rushing to the finger, making it very hot, and that is the natural process of the body to start to heal the burn, right? So it's natural, the body is doing this. We are taught to take that finger, put it under cold water because it is so hot. We want to cool the finger down. Now that is taking one state and doing the opposite state, and likely that finger will get a blister. However, with like cures like, and now take this as a total discretion, don't do it on your kids, only take responsibility for yourself, and also minor burns, and I have done this and it totally works. But you put that same finger, so Rubina's watching, hi Rubina, you put that same finger under warm water and you encourage the redness because that's the immune mediated response. And so now you're encouraging, because all that is rushing to the finger to fix it. So now you put the skin in warm water and you're enhancing the immune mediated response, which is a warm response, until it just feels okay. It's going to be painful at first, and you just hold it there for several minutes. The next day there will not be a blister, because like cures like. So the body is infinite wisdom. It knows how to heal itself. So it's all this redness and all this immune mediated cascade is helping to heal this burn, and we stop it with cold water. But if you facilitate the infinite wisdom of the rushing of the blood of the immune mediated cascade, and you put it under warm water, you're facilitating that whole cascade, and there won't be a blister. So I've done this many times. I don't get blisters, and I've tried to tell some people about it, patients about it, and they thought it was absolutely nuts. So it's fine. I agree. It's a scary thing when you get a burn and you just go into knee-jerk reactions. However, that's homeopathy. So we're following what the body's state is. It's red and warm. We put it in red and warm water, and you're actually facilitating the healing. Does that make sense? So throw up some stars. I keep saying stars. Throw up some likes and hearts if that makes sense. That is also like cures like. One third one of like cures like, to go back. So I'm seeing, I think it's Christy's throwing up a heart. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Donna's throwing up some hearts. It totally makes sense. So Donna, you possibly missed the first like cures like example I shared, but the first like cures like example I shared was hair of the dog. So a person wakes up, they're totally hungover, and in England they come up with this phrase, what do? In order to cure the hangover, you have another drink. So you put yourself in that state, and then they're ready to go for their next pub round. That is homeopathy. They're using the theories of homeopathy. And so I'll just go through another one because we are doing the hot cold showers. I was told somebody, I think they were an Indian patient of mine, and they told me that their dad said, when it's winter, you follow winter. When it's summer, you follow summer, because we were talking about hot, cold showers. So he said, when you're in winter, do cold water baths, because you're putting yourself in that state and you'll be warmer. When you're in summer, you do a warmer bath because you put yourself in that state and you'll cool down. So that is like cures like. And if you've ever been to India, they use that theory not just with water, but to cool down. What do Indian people do when it's so hot is have a hot cup of tea. They do it on purpose, and it is, again, like cures like. So you put yourself in that heat state and you will cool down. You won't feel as hot. Whereas in North America, we're taught to have ice cold water. Keep drinking ice cold water and you're like hot and hot and hot. But like cures like is in the winter, you do a cooler shower and you're warmer as you exit and go throughout your day. In the summer, you will have a warmer shower and you're not as cool or not as hot when you're going about your day. Does that make sense? And then again with the tea, that's totally like cures like. So put yourself in that overheated state by having hot boiling tea, and you're cooling yourself outwardly. You're putting your inner state in the heat state, and you're kind of like cures like the overheating. That makes sense? So Jatinder put tea. I'm not sure if there's a first part of your post that I can't see, because all I can see, Jatinder, is tea. Maybe write it down again and I can catch it. And if not, I'll try to check the comments after. But the only thing I see right now is tea. So do you guys get kind of the like cures like? That is a homeopathic state. So we're putting ourselves in the state in order to cure or offset the external state that we feel. The second one is Herring's Law. I think this one is so fascinating, and when you watch somebody unwind their healing, you can see it happening. I meant to look up where Herring's Law was originated from, but I forgot. I ran out of time to do that for you guys today, so maybe if I catch it, I'll write it in the comments. But Herring's Law is how we heal, and if you watch a person heal, it is the law. It's very, very fascinating. And so how I mentioned that we want a reaction from a person, but we also, when we're healing, you want like a fever, you want them to get sick. That's part of the detoxification. I was just, guess what you were saying? Oh, yes. Okay, so Jatinder got it. Okay, it wasn't a question or anything. Okay, good. If you did have a question, just let me know. But yes, the tea puts you in a like cures like state. Hot tea. Okay, so Herring's Law. This is the law of healing, and when you know to see it, oh, she was guessing. So I was gonna say probably when I was saying I guess you can't guess. I was talking about the alcohol. Jatinder guessed tea, and yeah, you totally guessed correctly, because that is like cures like to a tea. Little tea pun, little like cures like pun. Okay, Herring's Law. It is the law of healing, and I see this happen all the time. So like I say, when we want to elicit a response, that is classic. We have to have that for healing. When a person aggravates or what have you, as they're starting to heal. But Herring's Law is totally a law that shows that health is centrifugal, which means there's an unwinding of health. So in a process of cure, the symptoms always evolve in the same sense. Over time, they disappear in the reverse order of their appearance. So I think someone just threw up a laughing face. They're laughing at my like cures like tea pun, which thank you, I appreciate. I will be here for another 15 minutes. Okay, back to Herring's Law. Hahnemann, he was also the forefather of homeopathy. Again, 1791 we're talking about. He stated about Herring's Law, over time the symptoms disappear in the reverse order of their appearance. This is totally true. And so as the person is healing, as we're using the remedies, we're correcting frequencies, we'll get back to a person's symptom, and I'll ask them how old they were when they had the symptom, and I know what we're peeling back to. So sometimes they'll be like, I haven't had this since I'm 10. And I'm like so irritated because I've been doing all this work. Well, it was still in there, and as you're peeling back, now we know that we're at 10 years old and we keep going. So not necessarily that everyone has to peel back till like 1 year old, but when there's a lot of stuff going on, when there's a big disease process, the person will peel back. I'll give an example that they wrote here. For example, somebody has eczema, then it goes to diarrhea, then they go to asthma. When they heal, they will heal the asthma, then the diarrhea, then the eczema, and that is Herring's Law healing. Does that make sense to everyone? That's what Herring's Law is. You see the reverse order. So that for sure happened for me. I felt it deeply, and even the most minute things would come up. Like when I was a kid, they did the skin scratch test on me, but I had so many allergies that they had to do it up and down my back. They couldn't do it on my forearm, so they used the whole up and down of my back. And at one point when I was healing, I was doing like the reversal, like, you know, all my current nervous system stuff was healing. We're getting back to the roots of like eczema, asthma, the gut stuff. And at one point when I was taking my remedies, my back was so itchy. I thought I was gonna I couldn't handle it, and it wasn't eczema itch, it was something else. And at that point we had a brick fireplace, and I would take like the corner of the fireplace and like scratch my back because it was so itchy. And then it popped into my reality that I remember I was very little when I had these skin scratches, but when they did the skin scratch, it was so itchy on my skin that I couldn't handle it, and I'd have to sit there and wait for the reaction. It was so itchy. So even that was coming out. So I was probably about 3 years old when I was in my healing journey, and that set of remedies that brought that out. I was probably about 3 years old, so he knew that I was about 3. That's what we'd peeled back to. So even that came out. It was so fascinating that all that stuff is still in there, and so that extreme itching it affected my frequency of my body. So yes, they had to do the skin scratch to try to help me, but it also affected my frequency, because that's really a tough thing for a kid to go through. So that is Hering's Law. Over time, symptoms disappear in the reverse order of their appearance. And it's also top down. So it will go from when we have a symptom, it can start with a headache, then it can go to nosebleeds, bronchitis, diarrhea, the nervous system is affected, and now they come in with sciatic pain. So it's top down. So you'll notice that the healing goes from inside out and top down as well. That's Hering's Law. The symptoms literally start from inside out, and they will go from top down. So you see that too. Oftentimes when I treat eczema, like it could be, somewhere on the neck or something, and then you see it working its way down to the fingertips, and it's very fascinating. So that's Hering's Law. Its health is centrifugal. So it will go out as it's healing, and it'll also go in the reverse order as it's healing. Does that make sense? You can see it happening. It's very fascinating. And you should be able to see the link between all diseases as it unwinds. So that's Hering's Law, and I'm always looking for that, and it always happens. So sometimes a certain amount of remedies, you can see it like moving down the skin. I remember, again, the ultimate experience, ultimate experiment. I had a huge breakout of eczema, and I was doing some remedies. This is while I was in naturopathic college, before I saw my current naturopathy taught me about the undas. But I resulted in impetigo, which is what little kids get when their skin is broken and then they get it infected with staph or strep. And so I was taking remedies because I had a major breakout of eczema, probably from stress, whatever. School was super stressful. And then it got infected, probably because my immune system was compromised. So I went to go see the clinic, we had a student clinic. One of the 4th-year docs took my homeopathy case, gave me some remedies, and it was starting to clear. I still had to take antibiotics, mind you, because it was very severe. I took the antibiotics, but as the eczema was starting to clear, you could see it moving down my body. You could see it moving down my legs, and the pustules and all that, the infection was moving down my legs. So we know it's healing, and most people would think that it's spreading, but it was healing. So you have to know the difference between spreading and healing too, which is Hering's Law, which is very fascinating. So just to summarize Hering's Law, the symptoms always evolve in the same sense. Over time, they disappear in the reverse order of their appearance. In space, they evolve from inside out, from top to bottom. So it's very interesting. So anything that you've had, even like a gallbladder removed, whatever, it still has to work its way through and heal. And you can see the reverse order happen. And some people would be like, my gallbladder was removed years ago. Yes, but what created the gallstones or the imbalance was not treated. And so the body has to go through and treat all of that. And then eventually you'll get to the root, and that is Hering's Law. Is there anything with that? So if you don't know Hering's Law, it can seem like things are just getting worse, but they're not. And the body is triggering its infinite wisdom to heal. Just like cures like, when there's redness in your hand, that is infinite wisdom of your body, and then we stop it with cold water. So we're overriding our natural healing capabilities at all time with our conscious thoughts. And a lot of times fear states, we're trying to be helpful, but it's not helpful. Okay, laws of detox. So again, you've probably heard me, this is the 3rd law of homeopathy, especially drainage homeopathy, which is what I do. I don't do classical homeopathy. The laws of the drainage is again, it's like you're the sweeper. You sweep away all the stuff, you reduce the internal stress, and then the body's own vital force is able to heal. So we heal via enhancing the emunctories. So there's 4 emunctories. I'm trying to help people's emunctories improve. It is their breath, their perspiration, their bowel movements, and urination. So when we can enhance all those, they can get out toxins from where they're supposed to get out from, and the symptoms will reduce, because symptoms are often because the body can't detoxify itself and it has nowhere to get these symptoms out or get these toxins out, so it will create a symptom. Even lungs, gallbladder, skin is a big one, you know, eczema, all that stuff. Acne is a way to get toxins out. Vaginal yeast infections, that's a way to get toxins out. So the body will use secondary emunctories, which is like exactly what I just described, and it looks like symptoms because it can't get toxins out. So through the laws of detox with homeopathy, you want to enhance the emunctories, the primary 4 emunctories of the gut, urination, breath, and perspiration, to get out the toxins, which will decrease the symptoms. So in Western medicine, there is an external world that we're afraid of. There's viruses, there's bacteria, there's parasites, and there's no prevention. We're just susceptible to the outside world, and there's no responsibility on our part. It's not about changing your diet, it's not about your lifestyle, it's not about anything. It's just a chance. You're chancing it, being in the outside world because of all this external stuff, especially with what's going on currently. You know, you're chancing it, so you just have to stay at home and not take any responsibility for health, but just reduce your chances of it. Whereas what I'm talking about with the laws of drainage is it is an internal or endogenous origin. It comes from inside, and it's because of the toxic accumulation. It's because of the terrain. I did a masterclass on the cellular terrain. So the cellular terrain is unhealthy, imbalanced. The emunctories are not efficient and not able to get toxins out. And there is absolutely a possibility to reverse illness via like cures like in Herring's Law by enhancing the emunctories, getting the toxins out, being the sweeper so that the vital force can work its way through and heal the body. And the onus is on us, and we have a responsibility to take a huge part in our healing. So that's the Western medicine versus the drainage, natural medicine, and the laws of detox. So waste products are toxins. They're essentially useless to the body, but when we can't get them out is when we create symptoms, when we can't get them out efficiently. So a very stressed nervous system or a compromised nervous system, immune system, over the years there's just been too much. The cellular terrain just from birth was not set properly. Perhaps, you know, the parents had a toxic cellular terrain. Over the years, like I said, our environment is far more toxic, and it just, you know, babies are set up for toxic cellular terrain. There's, like I mentioned in another talk, like 243 toxins that go through the umbilical cord blood to the baby before even being born. You know, that sets up their cellular terrain. Then pharmaceuticals right off the bat, that sets up their cellular terrain. So the cellular terrain not being able to take out these toxins, and the toxins are useless to us. Whether they're internally formed, just because of, you know, aging, we can create toxins, or they're from an outside origin and we can't get them out. So the goal is to enhance the emunctories, make them more efficient, and get them out of the body. And then that allows the like cures like and the Herring's Law to take place at a deep, deep level. When we are using emunctories and when we're talking about detoxification, it's not just your gut. So it's not just about having a super pristine, clean diet. It is detoxing at the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical levels. So it's not just about diet. Diet is a huge component, but we're detoxing at all those levels, and that enhances the emunctories. We're sleeping on time. We're using the laws of nature to wake and sleep. We're using the seasons. We're using the times of day. We're respecting food preparation and how our gut can receive food. So we're looking at all that, and this is the natural detox perspective of us having responsibility because it comes from an inside out. So that could be very confusing because the Western medicine model is always outside in. So it's totally two schools of thought. You cannot mix them, but you can do both at the same time. So don't mix the philosophies, but you can do both at the same time. So you can, yes, treat the virus when you have it via pharmaceutical, but the real work that we do, that I focus my practice on, is the internal origin of why you are susceptible to it, and hopefully in the future you won't be susceptible and no longer require the pharmaceutical. So it's totally two schools of thought. The Western medicine is that we have no prevention, no responsibility, and then the drainage philosophy is that we are fully responsible for as much prevention as we can. Does that make sense, everyone? So that's the 3 laws of homeopathy I want to go through, which are totally fascinating to me. Like cures like, Herring's law, the centrifugal effect of how we heal, and the laws of detox, which is what we need in order to have these laws work deeply. So that's just a bit of how I view a person's case when I'm talking to them. Is everyone ready when they first come in to do all this deep healing? No. And sometimes people will come back years later. Sometimes people will see other naturopaths and then come back and just, they don't know what we're doing in our office, but it does at a deep cellular level feel correct. Even though, you know, it is a process to unwind all this stuff, but they'll see other people and then they'll get it, that it's not just about the surface, it's about doing that whole case history, and then the treatment is it's easy. You can't go wrong with the treatment when you know what the origin of it is, or you're tackling the origin. Does that make sense to everyone? It's very, very fascinating to me. I'm seeing some yeses. Yeah, and it takes time. Healing takes time. The amount of stuff that came out of my body is still astounding to me. Like, still it keeps happening. I'm like, wow. But I do understand why it does happen to me, because then I can understand it when it happens to other people. So I do understand that I had to go through deep healing processes in order to help guide people through, because it's scary when you have a person unfolding in Herring's law and you don't know what it is. And you can't help a person, and then the practitioner also feels maybe defensive that it wasn't because of my treatment, but it's part of the healing. So I think that, you know, I had to go through a lot of this, as do most practitioners. If you talk to a lot of people in the natural field, they've gone through their own deep healing, a lot of it. And I think it's necessary, because if you haven't, you can't understand it, and it's very scary. And then you flip back into the Western model, but when you're grounded and seated in the natural model, the drainage model, you know where a person's at. And yeah, you can still use pharmaceuticals. You're just using two schools of thought, and they're very, very different. You have to know what is what. One is not responsible, one is fully responsible. So responsible for their own expression is what I mean. Of their health. Is there any questions? Can I answer anything about like cures like? Do you guys have another like cures like that example that has popped into your head that is in everyday life that I haven't even thought about? Just let me know. I can answer questions for a few more minutes. I am shocked that this lasted an hour. I thought I was just going to quickly go through, it would be a short masterclass, but it was quite full, so I'm glad about that. And always super fun for me. I love that I get a chance to go into the deeper philosophies, because I don't get a chance to in the one-on-one visits. It's just too much to go over. And so if someone really wants to know, what are we doing, why is it taking this amount of time, what is this chick looking for, why does she ask these crazy questions, these hopefully will be a resource that you can continue to head towards and listen and re-listen, because it takes people years to study it, years, and I'm still always learning. And I went through some of my books for this masterclass, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is so deep, and there's so much more still that I can include in healing and what I'm looking at. So it's really, really deep. But if anyone has any questions about this or anything else, or even I'm on again on Monday for symptoms of a traumatized nervous system. But we're going to check in on the hot cold shower challenge. Has anyone been doing it? We'll check in on that too. Hopefully you guys are doing it. I've been doing it, and it's so interesting. Yesterday I was like a total warrior, and I was like, yeah, whatever, 90 seconds cold water. And the day before I was like, I do not want to do this. And so I was hesitant. I was negotiating again, and I still did it. I did a minute and 15 seconds. You know, my whole day I had in the back of my mind, like, well, I'm a bit more hesitant today. So that could trickle into your day, because I was hesitant in the cold shower. So I was maybe not as kind of mentally strong that day, and I have to honor that, and I have to figure out why, and I can kind of reflect on it. So Donna says, we love it as well. I'm so glad you guys love it. This is super nerdy, but I think, you know, we've learned a lot about Western philosophy and healing, so why not learn about the real true philosophy of the natural too? Because if you're embarking on it, you gotta learn. 1 minute, 15 seconds, my hero. It took me a long time to get to that. A long time. So I've been doing these for a long time, and I still have that mind chatter. So don't be disillusioned by the time. I've been trying this for a long time, and I really had some crazy negotiations with myself. So it's all about just getting to that fear state and why that brain doesn't want to do it. So whatever you can do is awesome. I think I started out with maybe like 5 seconds or something like that. And it was just like a little bit of progress every time I did it. To me, the progress was just doing it. It wasn't the time. And then when I consistently did it, then I started to increase the time. So I wasn't really necessarily worried about the time. It was just the consistency, because I so didn't want to do it. I fought it hard. Still happens. So anything else? I was just going to, oh yeah, that was it. All right, if there's no more questions, I will sign off, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. As always, I'm so appreciative of whoever logs on. It really means a lot to me. It really makes it super fun when you guys ask questions. That to me is the funnest part of doing the lives. I really love it. And I will be back on again on Monday at 1 p.m. for trauma and the nervous system, which is something a bit newer to me because I didn't recognize how much of an impact that has. So great info. Donna says, thank you. You're so welcome. It's so my pleasure. And yeah, just reflect maybe on your life on day to day if you have any like cures like that you do naturally. But the burn one is super fascinating. If you think about it, it makes so much sense. Like your body's trying to do something and we just pop in and block it. So Jatinder says, thank you. You're so welcome. It's so my pleasure. It's so fun for me. And I will see you guys on Monday at 1 p.m. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.